We've all heard about creatine as a supplement for people who work out, bodybuilders. You want to build your strength and muscles. And over the last few weeks, I've really dove deep into creatine, how it can improve our sleep, how it can help with menopause fatigue, how it can help stave away mental health problems. And today I'm diving into Alzheimer's. It's emerging science and it is emerging in the way that suggests that Alzheimer's may not just be an issue related to amyloid plaques and the tau protein tangles that you may have heard of already. There is growing evidence to suggest it is a brain energy situation as well, a metabolic situation within the brain, which by taking a creatine supplement is indicating it can help impact the onset of Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's risk in women is high, particularly after menopause. We have the greatest incidence of Alzheimer's. And so this is particularly relevant for you if you're a woman and high and postmenopausal, high again, or perimenopausal. Start taking your creatine because then, as well as the other benefits that you are likely to get, you might also be helping to prevent cognitive impairment, such as developing dementia or Alzheimer's. Dementia is an umbrella term. You might be thinking, well, what's the difference? Alzheimer's is a type of dementia, and Alzheimer's specifically involves the amyloid plaques and the tau proteins. Creatine is a molecule that we produce naturally, but we don't produce enough of it naturally in order to act as a supplement. So it is one of those things that you would have to take as a supplement. Creatine monohydrate, there are so many places selling creatine monohydrate now. It is a low-cost supplement, and given the low side effects and the chances of having such a positive impact on so many different aspects of your body, it's one of those that I would say is in your top 3 of supplements that you should be taking daily. So creatine in the body helps to store and transport energy. Every cell in the body relies on ATP, adenosine triphosphate. ATP really is the energy. It's like the energy cell, the little packet of energy within each cell of the body. So when neurons use energy, so neurons are brain cells, ATP loses one of its 3 phosphates and it becomes adenosine diphosphate. What creatine does is it donates a phosphate to adenosine diphosphate to make it ATP again. So ATP essentially is a fully functioning, fully charged battery. Adenosine diphosphate is a bit depleted. It needs a plug-in and it needs a bit of a charge. So creatine essentially charges the ADP, turning it into ATP, making it a much more functionally working cell with a full amount of energy. All this happens within the mitochondria, which are the little batteries, the little powerhouses of the cells. Don't worry, this is not going to get too scientific, but I think it's important that you understand the basics of why we need creatine and also how the mechanics of it work. Because studies suggest in Alzheimer's that the mitochondria don't work effectively, which might then contribute to that cognitive decline. And so by boosting the energy, the idea is that your brain will function better and it will stay cleaner and it will serve you into your latter years much more effectively. There was a pilot study in last year, 2025, by the Canvas University Medical Centre. Only a small study, but it's a start. And they enrolled 20 people who were showing mild to moderate symptoms of Alzheimer's, and they were all already taking their Alzheimer's medications. And what they did was they took 20 grams of creatine over the course of 8 weeks every day. So they'd take 10 grams in the morning, 10 grams in the afternoon, and they continued that for 8 weeks. Researchers measured creatine levels in the brain using a highly advanced form of MRI, a magnetic resonance spectroscopy. And they also assessed cognitive function with a validated battery called the NIH Toolbox and measured energy biomarkers in the blood. And what they found is that creatine levels inside the brain raised by 11% in both men and women on average. And cognitive testing showed improvements in working memory and executive function. It's important that we note that it's a single-arm pilot trial, which means that they all took creatine. There was no control group. But so we can't definitively say, oh, definitely the creatine helped, but it definitely suggested that creatine had a positive impact on these 20 people that took the 20 grams of creatine every day. I think it's really important that we are clear about the nuance, because it's very easy to get, and I'm as guilty of it as anyone, getting super excited. I mean, to me, in my mind, it suggests creatine is definitely helping them, but it's not conclusive enough. It suggests that creatine can help, but it's not yet proof that creatine, in fact, does help with the, reduce the onset of Alzheimer's, or indeed improve the situation of people who already have Alzheimer's. But for menopausal women specifically, our risk of developing Alzheimer's goes up quite significantly after the age of around 50. And Alzheimer's is one of those diseases that if you are tested for it early enough, it starts around about 30 years before you actually start to exhibit Alzheimer's symptoms. So for all of us who want to ensure or try and future-proof our longevity, doing the things now that can help to prevent the onset of Alzheimer's, such as taking creatine, such as prioritizing your sleep, which is also so important because that's when the brain flushes through the glial cells. That's the brain sort of cleans itself out, which then helps to get rid of those amyloid plaques and tau proteins that are associated traditionally with Alzheimer's. But if creatine is also having a positive impact, it might well be worth taking creatine for your brain health. I've shared it in the previous videos that I've held recently, but I now take 3 to 4 grams of creatine before I go to bed, because I'm convinced it's having a positive impact on the quality of my sleep. And when I'm waking up throughout the night, I sleep with my pets. They're really noisy. I've got cats, they're old cats, they yowl. I drink huge amounts of water throughout the day and the night, so I normally have to get it once. All those things contribute to me waking up during the night. But before I was taking the creatine, my sleep was much more erratic. I could not go back to sleep as well. And now I'm finding that I go back to sleep quite well, quite easily. Sometimes I'm awake a little bit longer than others, but not for long. But most importantly, I'm noticing that when I do wake up, I feel like I slept so deeply. I'm dreaming more, which would suggest that I'm spending more time in my REM, which is your that's often the stage of sleep that we spend more time in as we go through our sleep cycles throughout the course of the night. And that's when we tend to dream. So that would imply that I'm getting enough deep sleep because my brain's spending, as I get closer to morning time, it's spending more time in REM sleep. It might be that I'm just remembering my dreams more and I wasn't remembering them before, but I'm having really quite bright dreams now. And so I really do feel, I've been doing it for several weeks now, I feel that it is having a positive impact on the quality of my sleep. Even so much so that I was poorly last week and I thought our boiler had broken down. It hasn't. We ran out of oil, of all the times to run out of oil. And I nearly filled it up before this flipping Iran thing happened. I can't believe it. Hindsight is a great thing. But the readout on our boiler, on our oil tank is faulty. So we thought we had oil and we didn't. So it's rather chilly. The house temperature at the moment is about 9 degrees, hence the scarf. I have got a log burner, but I mean, it's quite a large space to try and heat. So thank goodness for thick quilts and electric blankets at bedtime. But even when I got into bed feeling poorly and my bedroom was freezing cold, and I still thought, no, I'm going to get up and have my creatine, which I'd forgotten to have before I went to bed. And literally, I just mix it up in water. I put a scoop in water, mix it up, and I just neck it. Don't have it in hot drinks because it can it's not great in hot drinks. Just make sure it's either tepid or cold, and try it. I think it's having a really profound impact on the quality of my sleep. But getting back to prevention of Alzheimer's, given the fact that we start to develop this disease much, much earlier on than a lot of us think we do, everything that we can do now is going to help to future-proof for a healthier, older age. And I don't know about you, one of the worst things that could happen to me is, I don't know whether the worst thing would be Alzheimer's or motor neurone disease. Probably motor neurone disease, actually, because you're so aware of what's happening. But either of those two would be one of the worst ever things I could ever think of getting diagnosed with. So I'm doing everything I can possibly do to reduce the risks of developing or keeping myself healthy, basically. And if creatine is such a simple way of doing it, I'm all for adding a few extra grams of creatine every single day. Also, through menopause and beyond, hormonal changes do affect the efficiency, the glucose uptake in our brain. So our brains don't use energy that's in the body as well as they used to use. Hence the relation to menopause fatigue, which I will link here because I spoke about that last week. So for such a simple supplement to take, it could have such profound implications. And I don't need to wait for lots of other trials, which will probably take ages to definitively prove, it'll probably be another decade before they say, great new news, breaking news, creatine helps prevent Alzheimer's. I'm just going to start to take it now because of all the benefits that I already know come from taking creatine. And if it also really helps you protect against Alzheimer's, well, then I'm quids in already. But it's not a magic cure. I think that's really important that you are aware of that. You're not suddenly going to take creatine and then think, wow, I feel amazing. But it is one of those things that's going to work in the background and support you. I do notice a big difference on the weights that I can now lift. I was on a plateau for years, and obviously I'm consistently getting older, and I am now lifting heavier than I've ever lifted. I can definitely get more out of my workouts. I think it does help with your muscular tone, your sculpting, and I'm convinced it's helping my sleep. I spoke about depression and creatine and menopause a couple of weeks back. I'll link that one here. And obviously the fatigue and the quality of your sleep. So there are lots of things, there are lots of ways that creatine can benefit your life. The only thing I would mention is if you struggle with bipolar disorder, taking a creatine supplement, quite a high dosage, has been linked to increased manic episodes. So be mindful of that. And if you have kidney disease, again, creatine would be something that you'd want to double check first with your medical provider, because it does increase the level of creatinine in the body. Any supplement, if you're on any medication at all, always just check that adding a supplement is not going to have a negative impact on the medications that you're currently taking. Right, science is complicated. Alzheimer's is complicated. The brain is complicated. Energy systems are complicated. And we still are learning so much about the human body and the brain. We probably know more about traveling to the moon than we still understand about how our bodies and brains work. But taking those few steps to support our energy metabolism in the body and the brain is really important, and it's something that you can easily choose to do. I use creatine monohydrate from Momentous, and I also get it from my protein. They both seem really good. There is another brand called Creapure, which is marketed in Germany. So if you struggle with digestive issues, you might want to go for Creapure, because it's the way it's manufactured is a little purer. It's not like you're going to get trace metals in any of those sources. Creapure uses it's slightly more expensive, but it might just help you if you do struggle with a few bloating problems or digestive issues. If you do, then just start with a small dosage of creatine every day. Maybe have 1 gram in the morning, 1 gram at lunch, and 1 gram in the evening while you get used to it. So that will give you 3 grams in total. I take between 8 and 10 or 11 grams a day. I front load my first dose, and then my second dose is 3 or 4 grams in the evening before bed. I find it works really, really well. The morning one is to support my workout and my general energy across the course of the day, and the one before bed is to help me sleep better. And you might be thinking, but I don't really want loads of energy before I go to bed, because surely it's going to have a negative impact on my sleep. It doesn't work like that. It means that your body has the cellular energy to do the work that it needs to do, so it's not putting you into stress. It means that you will sleep deeper. You'll probably have better dreams. It means that you'll go through all the sleep cycles like we need to do in order to stay healthy, in order to restore and recuperate and rejuvenate. So it's not that it's going to give you energy which will have a negative impact on your sleep. It'll give you cellular energy so that your body can heal and restore and do all the things in the background that it might just be struggling to do with the very busy lives and the stress that we are surrounded with right at the moment, with all these geopolitical upheavals and craziness. Who'd have thought? It's just beyond belief. So I hope you found this helpful. Thank you so much for your company. If you're taking creatine, please, I know Jen, you're brilliant. You've given me great details on the creatine levels that you're taking and where you get yours from. If you're new to watching this, please leave a comment and let me know if you're taking creatine, what you take it for, where do you get your creatine from, because then it just helps other people. You know, I always read the comments beneath videos. I think they're fascinating. It tells a lot about the audience, and you can pick up some really good nuggets from reading the comments beneath videos. My videos don't have masses of comments, but that doesn't mean I don't value every single 1.5 that I get. You could make it 2 or 3 for me. I feel like on a winning streak. So thank you so much. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like and consider subscribing to the channel. That way you will be less likely to miss future episodes. And I think it also helps me show up in the algorithm a bit more. So maybe I can get more than 1.5 comments. Make it a great week. Stay safe, stay warm, and let's hope all this chaos is soon over. I'll talk to you soon.